Imagine you just sold your company, not a unicorn exit, not a headline deal, but real money, the kind of number that used to live only in your daydreams back in the years you were eating rice and eggs to make payroll. You remember exactly what you thought the day the wire came through. Now I can breathe. You bought the watch. You told your parents, you maybe posted the humble brag update everyone half expects and half resents. For about 9 days, it was everything you imagined. Then something strange happens. Nothing happens. You catch yourself doing something you never expected, worrying about the market crashing, worrying about the next thing, wondering whether people only want to be around you now. If you've ever hit a goal, a promotion, a launch, a number in your bank account, and felt the ground not shift the way you expected, this video is for you, because a man figured this out 2,600 years ago, and he tried to warn the richest man in the world. That man didn't listen, and it nearly cost him his life. Psychologists have a name for what this feels like. They call it the arrival fallacy, the belief that reaching a goal will produce a lasting state of happiness or security, when in reality it produces a brief spike followed by a return to baseline. But there's a second, sharper problem hiding underneath that one. It's not just that success doesn't satisfy, it's that we use a single snapshot to judge a whole life. We see someone rich, powerful, celebrated, and we compress their entire existence into that one frame. They made it. The ancients had a word for this trap too, and a story that cuts right to the bone. It involves a king who owned more gold than any man alive, a modest lawmaker who refused to flatter him, and a lesson about time that most of us, like Croesus himself, only learn the hard way. Around 560 BCE, the Greek statesman Solon, the man who had reshaped Athens's laws and stepped down from power rather than cling to it, was traveling the world, as wise men of the era did, simply to observe. Eventually he arrived in Sardis, capital of Lydia, home of King Croesus, whose name was already a byword for wealth. Croesus was staggeringly rich. His kingdom sat on gold-rich rivers, and his treasury was the stuff of legend. He gave Solon a full tour of it, chamber after chamber of gold, silver, luxury beyond anything Solon had likely seen. King Croesus asked the question he was clearly fishing for. "Stranger of Athens, we have heard much of your wisdom. Tell me, who is the happiest man you have ever seen?" He expected one answer. "Himself." Solon said, "Tellus of Athens." Croesus, stunned, asked why. Solon explained, "Tellus lived in a prosperous city, raised good children who themselves had healthy children, had enough, not excess, but enough, and died in a moment of honor, in battle, defending his home, given a hero's burial by his own countrymen, a complete life, beginning, middle, and end, all in harmony." Irritated but curious, Croesus asked who was second happiest, still expecting to hear his own name. Solon named Cleobis and Beton, 2 brothers, not rich, not powerful, remembered for a single act of devotion to their mother and the gods, who then died peacefully, painlessly, in their sleep, at the height of their honor, never living long enough to see it fade. Croesus, now openly frustrated, demanded to know why he, with all his gold, all his power, didn't even rank, and Solon gave him the line that would echo through the rest of Western thought: "Count no man happy until he is dead." His reasoning wasn't cynicism, it was mathematics. A single lifetime, Solon said, contains roughly 26,000 days, and not one of them is guaranteed to resemble the one before it. Fortune is a wheel. The gods, he said, love to topple those who think themselves secure. A man might be rich today and a beggar tomorrow. You cannot call a life happy mid-story. You can only judge it once it's finished, because only the ending tells you whether the wealth, the power, the peak actually held. Croesus sent him away, unimpressed. Rich men rarely enjoy being told their gold doesn't settle the account. Here's the part the history books love to point out. It happened almost exactly as Solon warned. Croesus's beloved son was killed in a hunting accident soon after, a tragedy Croesus himself had tried and failed to prevent through omens and precautions. Then, misreading a prophecy about his own strength, Croesus went to war against the rising Persian Empire under Cyrus the Great and lost everything. Sardis fell. Croesus was captured, bound, and placed on a pyre to be burned alive. As the flames were about to be lit, witnesses say Croesus cried out one name 3 times. Solon, Solon, Solon. Cyrus, curious, asked what he meant. Croesus told him the whole story, the tour of the treasury, the question about happiness, the warning. And as he spoke, Cyrus reportedly had a moment of his own recognition that he too was only human, only fortunate for now, and ordered the pyre put out. Croesus was spared. The richest man Solon had ever met came within moments of dying exactly the kind of death Solon had tried to warn him about, and was saved ultimately by remembering the warning he'd once dismissed. Here's why this isn't just a dusty parable. It's a diagnostic tool for how you're running your life and your business right now. First, stop grading your life by its peaks. In the opening, you graded your life by the exit. Croesus graded his by the treasury. But a peak isn't a verdict. It's a data point. If you only feel like you're winning when you hit a new high, you've built your self-worth on the most volatile metric available. Revenue, followers, valuation, title. Every one of them can reverse in a quarter. Solon's insight, translated into modern terms, judge the trajectory and the foundation, not the spike. Second, build what Solon actually praised. Notice what made Tellus happy wasn't gold. It was a flourishing community, children who thrived, and, crucially, enough. Not excess, enough. If you're in year 3 of chasing a number that keeps moving further away every time you get close, that's not ambition, that's the arrival fallacy on a loop. Set a number, mean it. Reassess your definition of enough deliberately, not by comparison. Third, practice premeditatio malorum, rehearsed misfortune. The Stoics who came after Solon turned his warning into a discipline. Periodically and briefly, imagine losing what you've built, not to be morbid, to stress test your identity. If the thought of losing the company, the money, the title is unbearable, that's information. You've fused your identity with something Solon already told us is unreliable. The people who handle reversal well are the ones who already know who they are without it. Fourth, build a business and a life that would still make sense if the numbers came back down. This is the difference between building for the highlight reel and building for the full 26,000 days. Relationships you'd still have, skills you'd still own, a reputation for how you treated people, not just what you achieved. That's the part fortune can't repossess. Here's the thing Croesus didn't understand until he was tied to a pyre, and you're only starting to understand the moment the wire hits your account. The goal was never the destination, it was a checkpoint. You are going to have your version of the treasury tour, the launch, the raise, the promotion, the number that finally moves. Let yourself enjoy it, but don't hand it your identity. Don't let it write the final line of your story before the story's over, because the real measure isn't the highest number you ever hit. It's whether 26,000 days from now, the life underneath the number was one built on people who'd stand at your funeral and mean it, work you're proud of, independent of its outcome, and a character sturdy enough that fortune's wheel could turn all the way around and still not take the thing that actually mattered. Solon wasn't telling Croesus his wealth was worthless. He was telling him it wasn't the point. So, if you're in the middle of your climb right now, chasing the number that feels like it'll finally make you feel arrived, build the kind of life Solon would call happy, not the kind Croesus mistakenly thought he already had, because none of us get to call it until the end does. If this reframed how you think about success, subscribe. There's a lot more history with this kind of edge coming.